What's up everybody, welcome back. So let's finish our grenades today. We actually have a lot left to do. So the first thing I want to take a look at is increasing the velocity while we hold down the button. So we have this increasing arc. And then we're also going to make sure that we can damage our AI with the grenades. And we need to make sure that we can't throw grenades when we are reloading or dashing and things like that. And the last thing we want to do is add everything to the HUD and make sure we actually have an ammo count. So still a lot left to do, like I mentioned. If you like the series, please consider leaving a like. And if you want to get your hands on the project files, you can become a member of the YouTube channel or become a Patreon. And then you will get access to the premium channels in the Discord, which will also give you access to some downloads. So with all of that stuff out of the way, let's dive into today's video. So let's open up our base character, and before we actually start adding our increased velocity, we want to fix our spline mesh looking a bit weird. And to do that, we need to go to our grenade update trace function, and in there we have a node called add spline mesh component. So if we select this node, we want to change the forward axis of the mesh that we're spawning. So we're using the shape cylinder and we want to set the forward axis to Z. And this will actually fix our spline mesh. So if we give it a quick test right now, then it should look normal. So as you can see, now we have a nice smooth arc instead of the wobbly thing that was going on earlier. So we have that fixed. And I still need to take care of these errors, but that's nothing really related to the project. So let's ignore that. So let's start working on our increased velocity, and we're actually going to use a timeline for that. So we're going to hook it up to our input action throw grenade. So let's go over here and let's add a new timeline. So let's call this something like our grenade timeline. And if we open it up, first of all, we want to make sure that we enable replication. So over here, this button, replicate it, make sure this is enabled. And then let's add a float track in here. And we can call it something like our velocity. And then the length of the timeline is going to be 1.5 seconds. So then we're going to add 2 keyframes. Right click, add key to curve float. And you want to do that twice. So if we select the first key, I'm going to set it at time 0. And then for the starting value, I'm going to use 400. And for the second key, we're going to make sure this is at 1.5 seconds. And then the velocity is going to be 1000. So you can play around with these numbers. If you want to throw the grenade further or higher, you have to increase these numbers. So this is the timeline that we're going to use. We can close this down, and then we want to store some variables in here. So we're going to make our float an integer, and we're going to do that by using the truncate node. And then we have an integer, and we want to promote this to a variable. And the first one is going to be our grenade forward velocity. So forward velocity. And then we also want a variable for the upward velocity. So let's duplicate this one and let's call this grenade up velocity. There we go. For both variables, we actually want to make them replicated. So let's turn on replication for the forward and the up velocity. And then we're going to hook this up to the update node. And we also want to update our up velocity, but we probably want to have that a bit lower than our forward velocity. So I'm simply going to multiply this with something like 0.8. So we have to drag off the float and then divide it. And then I'm going to use 0.8, so you can play around with these numbers again. And then we want to truncate our float and plug it into the upwards velocity. So this is our timeline. Now let me double check my notes quickly. We need a server replicated event. So we want the server to run this timeline. So we're going to create a new custom event. And let's call this something like a server grenade velocity. So we're going to hook this one up to the play from start. And then we want to go to our input event. So we have the input action throw grenade, and at the end of it we already added our switch has authority. So we're going to use this. If we are the server, we can simply plug that pin into the play from start. So we're going to drag off here and play the timeline directly. And if we are a client, we want to call our server function. So by the way, we need to make sure that we set this to run on server. So replication, run on server. Let's make sure you enable that. And then from the remote over here, we're going to call the server function. So server grenade velocity. And that will make sure the server starts playing the timeline. And then for the release button, we want to hook this up to our stop pin. So if we go back to the input event over here, then we want to go to our multicast branch. Yes, so we want to pick the server branch and plug that directly into the stop timeline over here. And that should be good to go. And let me double check my notes quickly. So we also want to grab the multicast branch. So over here, if we are a client, we're calling the server grenade montage. And we want to make sure that after playing the montage, so that's over here, that we also set the timeline. So if we are a client, we want to use the server grenade montage function, grab this pin, and also plug it into the stop pin of the timeline. So this will make sure if a client releases the button, the timeline will also stop. So those are hooked up correctly. Now let me double check. So now we need to make sure that we actually use our new velocity variables. So if we go to our update trace function, update grenade trace. So over here for the predict projectile path, we need to plug in our new variables. So we're using 750 and 400, and we're simply going to plug in the forward velocity over here and then use the upward velocity over here. So this is for the prediction of the grenade, and then we also want to make sure if we actually throw it that we use the same numbers. So then we have to go to our event that's called by the notify, so grenade throw, and in here we're setting the forward vector with our multicast event. So over here we're also going to plug in our new variables, the forward vector and then the upward vector over here. So that should be good. So there's one small thing we need to do after we actually throw the grenade. So that's still in our grenade throw event. And then all the way at the end, after we set the velocity, we're going to grab this pin and look for our timeline. And this time we want to plug it into the set new time and then make sure that we have the new time set to 0. So this will reset the timeline immediately after we throw the grenades. So this will make things a lot smoother for clients. So make sure you plug this one into the set new time. And this should pretty much make our velocity work. So we can have a quick test. And maybe we want to actually do clients this time. So let's set this up quickly. Host a game and then search one. So let's make it a free-for-all game. And ready up, so we're good to go. So we're just going to test with the client and then it should pretty much work for the server, but we could have a look for both of them, why not? So this is the client, and if I hold down the button, you can see the grenade arc is actually increasing. So that seems to be working. And right now, the host also doesn't see the client's grenade trace, so that's also good to go. Now we do actually have a pretty big arc, so we might want to lower the numbers a little bit, but that's pretty much up to you. So this is working, and we can also damage our host. So let's double check. And the host also seems to be working, so let's give this guy a grenade in the face. There we go. Okay, so that's good to go. We have our increased velocity ready. The next thing we're going to do is make sure that if we throw a grenade at some AI that they also take damage. So let's open up our minion base. And in here in the event graph, we actually want to hook our damage event up to the event radial damage. So let's look for an empty spot in the event graph, and we're going to add the event radial damage. And from here we want to call our damage interface. So let's right click and call our take damage function. So we kind of want to call our message function, and that's really showing up. So if we drag from an actor and then try again, this will probably, so drag from the damage causer, and over here you can call the take damage message event, and that's the one we want. And then we're simply going to disconnect the target, and for the target plug in a reference to ourselves. So this is how you want to call it. If you call the other event, this will be a yellow pin, and I'm not sure if that's working out. So make sure you actually call the message event over here. And then we simply want to hook things up. So for the instigated by, we can get our controlled pawn. So this returns the controller, and we want the pawn. So okay, controlled pawn. And we want to plug this one into the attacker. So for the damage received, we can plug it directly into the amount. And if we grab our hit info and break the structure, we can grab our hit bone name from here. So hit bone name and plug it into the hit bone name. So that will make things work. And then we actually need to make sure that we add some XP if we make a kill. So first of all, let's grab a branch and make sure this is a valid hit. So plug that one in. And then grab another branch and plug in the is dead. So if it's dead, that means we have a kill. So then we want to grab our XP component, and we can actually do that by dragging off our controlled pawn. So this is the player that attacked the enemy, and from here we can get a component by class. So get component by class, this one. And we simply want to select our XP component. And then from here we can call our add XP function. So drag off the component and then call component add XP. Plug this one into the true pin, and we can grab the amount of XP from our damage interface. So this will make sure that we can actually kill AI with the grenades, and that we also get some XP for it. So that should be the AI part, and now we can go back to the character to take care of some other stuff. So let's open up our base character again, and let's make sure that we can't actually throw a grenade while we are reloading or while we are dashing and things like that. So we actually have our is throwing grenade boolean already in here, but we're not really using it. So first of all, let's make sure that we select it and make sure that we enable replication. So replicate it, and let's turn that on. And then we want to go to our input event. So input action throw grenade. And before we actually start throwing the grenade, we're going to make some checks. So let's move this over and let's grab a branch in here. So let's start with the pressed one. And we actually don't want to be dashing, so we have all kinds of booleans in here. Let's drag in the is dashing, and we're gonna add a not bool behind it, so not boolean. And then we're gonna grab an end node and hook up a bit more conditions. So we're gonna add 4 in total. And then we want to grab our is reloading boolean, so that should be in here somewhere. Let me see. Is reloading, so we're going to grab this one, and then we're also going to grab is switching weapons. And the last thing we want to do is check if we are not already throwing a grenade, so let's also grab that one. And for all 4 of them, we want to add a not boolean, and then simply plug everything in. Hook everything up to the end node, and this is our condition. So if this is true, then we can throw a grenade. For clients, we're gonna set the isThrowingGrenade boolean locally as well to prevent a little input lag possibly. And then we want to go a little further to our which has authority over here. And we want to make sure that if we are authority, we're gonna set our isThrowingGrenade to true. So we're gonna move this over and plug it in and set it to true. And we want to do the same thing for our server grenade velocity. So if we are a client, we also want to make sure that the server knows we are throwing a grenade. So over here, we're also going to plug in isThrowingGrenade, and then we can plug it back into the play from start. Make sure this is enabled. So that should be good to go. And then we also want to make sure that we set it back to false. So after we throw the grenade in our multicast event, so that's over here, multicast grenade montage, we can simply hook it up to the onCompleted pin, isThrowingGrenade, and turn it back to false. And then we have our released pin left for the input event. So we want to make sure that we cannot throw multiple grenades from a single trace. So over here we can check if we are throwing a grenade. So we're going to grab a branch and plug it in over here. So isThrowingGrenade needs to be true, and then we want to grab an end boolean and also make sure that we're not already playing the montage for the grenade throw. So we can do that by getting the current montage and then simply compare it to our grenade throw montage. So we're going to do is not equal. And over here, we want to select our grenade additive montage. So grenade toss, and then we should have an additive one. Awesome. So grenade toss, that's the sequence, and this is the animation montage. So make sure you actually select the additive one. That's the one we're using. The other one will never return correct. So additive grenade montage, plug it into the end boolean, and this is our condition over here. So that should take care of most stuff. And in this case, we don't need to worry about if we are alive or not, because then we are disabling inputs. So we cannot throw grenades if we are dead. So we should be good to go. And then there's actually only the HUD left to fix, or actually add. We could have a quick test to see if all of this stuff is working. So let's do a quick little test in between and see if we can actually kill some AI. Okay. Oh, really? I suck at my own game. So, looking at the top screen, he did take a little bit of damage. There we go. So it wasn't a direct hit, but that one was, and they actually die, so that's good to go. And for example, if I'm dashing, I can throw a grenade while I'm in the air, or if I'm reloading, I also can throw grenades. So I think we are good to go over here, and we can actually start looking at the HUD. So let's take a look at the in-game HUD. First of all, for the grenade, I made a little HUD icon. So I simply made a screenshot and removed the background. So we have a little icon to add to our HUD. I'll make sure to add a download for it in the description, so you can just grab it from there if you want. Then we can go to the widgets folder and open our in-game HUD. And I'm simply going to add a small border in here with the grenade icon and the amount of grenades that I have. So let's drag in a new border. And first of all, let's align it. So let's align it to the bottom right. And then I'm going to make it 100 by 50. And we can move it around a little bit. So something like this should be good. Whatever you want. So for the brush color, I need to make sure that I set it to my default border color. So that's going to be all black and then 0.5 alpha. So for this border, we want to add a horizontal box. So we need to go to our panel section and then grab a horizontal box, drop it on top of our border. And inside of the horizontal box, we're going to grab an image first. So that's going to be for the icon. And after the image, we want to add some text. So let's also drop that inside of the horizontal box. Then let me double check. So for the image, we just want to set our grenade HUD image. So let's go to the brush and then add our grenade HUD. Over here, and we actually want to scale it down a bunch, so I'm going to say 40 by 40, and that looks a lot better already. So we should enable fill probably. Let's double check my notes. So we're going to have it to auto. Okay, so this should be good to go. And then for the text, we want to make sure this is a variable, so let's change the name over here, and this is going to be the text ammo grenade. And then let's make sure this is actually a number. So let's set it to 0. And we want to add our font and stuff. Orbitron. And for the alignments, we want to use vertically in the center. And then for horizontal, this should be good to go. So let's fill horizontally. And we can actually align the text to the center by using the justification over here. So if we set that to the center... Oh, we actually want to enable fill over here, so that's my bad. So fill, and then fill horizontally, and justification centered, and then the text will be centered. So that should be our little HUD icon, and then we want to go to the graph to make sure that we can update it. So we have our update ammo clip, ammo stock, so we're going to make a new function and update our ammo grenade. And we simply want to pass on integer in here. So let's add an input, and that's the grenade ammo. So we can turn it into an integer. And we're going to grab our text for the ammo grenade and simply set the text. So we forgot to enable variable. So if we go to the designer, make sure we select the text and then enable isVariable over here. So then we can actually use it in our event graph. We're going to drag it in and set the text. Not the tooltip text, but the normal text. There we go. And then we can simply plug in our integer and it will convert it for us. So the default settings should pretty much be good to go. And that's all we need to do in here. So let's return. And our HUD widget is good to go. So now we need to go back into our base character to make sure that we can actually update stuff. So for clients, we need a replicated event to update the HUD. So let's add that one first. And we actually have a bunch of these events. So I'm going to add it right over here next to them. Create a new custom event. And this is going to be a client update HUD grenade. There we go. So we want to make sure that we enable replication and this runs on the owning client. And then we simply want to grab our in-game HUD and call our new function. So update ammo grenade and pass on the integer to the event. There we go. So now we can call this from the server to make sure that clients will update it. And I actually forgot something. So if we call this at the beginning of the game, and we are going to do that, we need to make sure our HUD is valid. So we're going to grab our in-game HUD. And first of all, we're going to grab an isValid check. Plug it in. And if our HUD is not valid, we're simply going to delay until next tick. So we're going to wait until we have our HUD ready and good to go. And then we're going to call our update ammo grenade. So make sure that we add this little check in here to get rid of problems at the start of the game. So if we want to test this, we actually want to have some grenades in our ammo inventory. So we're going to simply go to our event begin. And that's all the way over here. So over here we have is server branch, and we add the weapons to our inventory. And for now, I'm simply going to add the grenade ammo in here as well. So we're going to create a new variable, and this is going to be our ammo grenade. So make sure this is an integer and that we enable replication. So replicate it. And if we are the server, we can simply set it. So we're going to drag it in over here, hook it up to the true pin. And for now, I'm just going to give 10 grenades at the start of the game. So we can change how all of this works later. For now, it's just a matter that we have something to test. And then we want to know if we are a local player or not. So we are the server, but we can still be local either way. So we need to check. So we're going to grab a branch. And if we are locally controlled, so is locally controlled. If we are, we can simply call our HUD directly. So we're going to grab our in-game HUD from the variables and then call our update ammo grenade. Plug this one into the true pin and make sure that we actually grab our ammo value to plug it in. And if we are a client, we want to call our replicated event we just created. So client update HUD grenade. And also plug in the correct variable. That should be good to go. So we don't need to plug in the in-game HUD over here. That's good. And now the last thing we need to do is actually make sure that our ammo changes if we throw a grenade. And that's a little bit tougher than you might think, because we are the server when we are throwing it, but first we're doing a trace locally. So we need to change a bunch of stuff. So let's go to our input event. And first of all, let's start by creating a new event for our grenade trace. So all the way over here, we have our input action throw grenade. And right now we immediately start tracing when we press the button, but we want to make sure that we actually have ammo first. And the server is going to check that. So this is going to be a bit of a pain, because this is the local player and that doesn't have to be the server. So how are we going to do all of this? Well, as I mentioned, first we want to grab this part. So we're going to grab the grenade trace setup, the function by the timer by function name, and then the variable that belongs to that timer. We're going to disconnect all of this stuff and move it to an empty spot. And we actually want to create a custom event for it, so we can replicate it to the local client. So let's right click, create a custom event. And this is going to be our local grenade trace. So let's enable replication run on owning client, and then we can plug this in. And if we go back to our input event, then we want to grab our has authority branch and move that over. So after we are setting the boolean locally, first we're going to check if we have authority, and we want to make sure that we have ammo. So we're going to disconnect these. And we're going to create a new function to check the ammo for our grenades. So let's create a new function. And let's call this something like handle grenade ammo. And we're going to give it an output. And that's the output can throw grenade. So let's do that first. And then, first of all, we want to check if we actually have grenade ammo. So we have a variable for that. Let's drag it in here, ammo grenade. And we're going to check if this is greater than or equal to 1. So let's drag off here is greater than or equal. And make sure that we have 1 in here. If this is true, then we are pretty much good to go. So we can create a local variable and call this local can throw. So that's a boolean, and we want to set it to true over here and set it to false over here. And now for the true branch, we can grab our ammo grenade and we're going to decrement it. So decrement int, so this will simply subtract 1. And then we need to update our HUD. So we're going to grab a branch in here. And again, we need to know if we are the locally controlled player or not. So is locally controlled. And if we are, we can simply call our HUD directly. So we're going to grab our HUD reference, drag it in here, and we're going to call our update ammo grenade. So we can simply plug in the variable over here, ammo grenade. And if we are a client, we need to call our replicated event. So that's client update HUD grenade. And again, plug in the ammo variable. So then we can return, and we can simply plug in our local boolean. So make sure that we also grab this branch and then plug in our local variable can throw grenade. So this will take care of the grenade ammo. So we can compile, go back to the event graph, and if we are the server, we can simply grab that event and call it directly. So this will return a boolean, and we can simply hook up a branch over here. So if this is true, then we can actually throw a grenade. And let me move my notes quickly. So after that, we want to call our local grenade trace event. So we're going to drag off the true pin and then call local grenade trace. And we're going to set our is throwing grenade true. And after that, we're going to continue to our timeline. So that's good to go. So that's the server part. And now the harder part would be the client, because we actually have a boolean that returns. So we need to make sure that the server checks it, and then the server checks the boolean and tells the client what he can do. So we're going to create another custom event to handle that. And let's call that something like a server grenade ammo. So custom event, server grenade ammo, or let's call it server handle grenade ammo. So then those two match up. So we need to make sure this is replicated to run on server. And then the first thing we want to do is grab our handle grenade ammo, plug it in over here to make sure that we can actually throw a grenade. So then we're going to grab a branch, plug it in, and we want to set our is throwing grenade boolean to true. And then we can call our local grenade trace. So the timer function, local grenade trace. And after that, we want to call our server grenade velocity. So that's the node that we disconnected from the remote pin over here. And that will start the timeline for the server. So we're going to hook that up to the end over here. And then we need to go to our remote pin into the input event. And over here, we want to call our new server replicated event. So server handle grenade ammo. Okay. So we should be pretty much good to go, and let's give this a little test. So I ran a quick test off screen, and there's two small fixes that we need to do. So inside of our input action throw grenade, we set the boolean locally, and we do not want to do that anymore. So we're simply going to remove this and plug the true pin directly into the switch as authority. So that should fix our ammo issue. And then I forgot to add a check in the check ammo function. So if we open our check ammo, so in here we also want to check if we are not throwing grenades. So this will make sure that if we are throwing a grenade, so playing the animation, that we cannot fire our weapon or that we cannot reload. So for both of these branches, we want to grab our is throwing grenade boolean, and then simply plug in a not bool and add it to the conditions. So we're going to add a pin to the end node and plug it in over here, and do the same thing for the other branch in here. So add a condition and plug it in here as well. So that should pretty much take care of everything. So we can do a quick multiplayer test right now, and we should be good to go. So let's set this up quickly. So I forgot to change the profile, but that shouldn't really matter. free for all, ready up, and let's go. There we go. So we actually have our HUD icon on screen with the amount of grenades. So that seems to be good to go. And we can still throw grenades as a client with the trace. So that's working as well. So for some reason I'm not doing damage anymore. So we might need to look into that. But first of all, we're going to check if the ammo count is working. So we have 2 left, 1 left. None left, so right now I shouldn't be able to throw grenades, and that's working. So we have that good to go. And so let's have a quick look at the damage and then we can wrap it up for today. So I realize why my damage isn't working anymore, and that's just pretty much a stupid mistake. So in the multicast event we added our grenade ammo and I forgot to hook these back up to the existing branch. So we need to make sure we plug this back into the server setup weapon inventory. So this will make sure that our game modes be set and then we can actually do damage again. So let's have a quick little test and then we should be good to go. So the game is running and now we should be able to blow each other up again. And there we go. So that wasn't too bad, it was a stupid mistake of myself. So that's everything I got for you guys today. Hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, please consider leaving a like and I'll be back soon for more. Talk to you later guys, bye bye.